I'm being joined by Senator Ita and I'm going to aid to President Muhammadu Buhari and Senator Shehu Sani, a former lawmaker. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on tonight.
Thank you very much.
Let me get your view on the visit, Senator Shehu Sani. Let me begin with you, of the U.S. Secretary of State and some of the conversation that came up in his visit. What came out to you more significantly?
It is important we understand that the presence of Blinken in Nigeria is the first outing of President Biden to Africa to lay out his policies, his programs, and to clearly demonstrate the new foreign policy of the Biden administration to African countries. And Blinken has been very blunt and clear with regards to what brought him here. It is about security, it's about democracy, it's about development. And he is not just coming to Nigeria, but to other countries within the continent. And for Nigeria specifically, he has made a pledge of about $2 billion developmental aid. And he has also stated the position of the United States with regards to what happened in Lekki and the relationship between the state and citizens as far as the attitude, the character of the state apparatus was concerned over what happened during the NSAS. And he has also made it very clear that U.S. as a country has human rights, fundamental human rights as a component of its own foreign policy. And with Leahy's law, the message is very clear that once a government or a state can use the apparatus of the states, the army, the police, to suppress its citizens, to persecute its citizens, U.S. has a moral obligation to intervene and to take on measures that will clearly checkmate such kind of occurrences. In the history of our country, we have had incidences like this, the OD massacre, the Zakibia massacre, the Zaria massacre. But what made this very distinct was the fact that ordinary citizens of this country came out in peaceful protest, raising the national flag, and then there was the application of force to suppress that protest. Now, there were a lot of controversies whether actually there was massacre or not, but the report that came out from that panel clearly
A leaked one.
Yes, it clearly stated that massacre took place. And then it is the obligation of the federal government to take an action on those who are specifically responsible for that. So it has mandated the state to set up panels. So whatever the report that comes from that panel, now it is the obligation of the federal government to ensure that whoever, whether a police officer, a military officer, whoever from the side of the state is responsible for these acts of brigandage, cruelty, and infamy must be brought before the law. So that is the spirit of his message from my own understanding.
Does this pose a threat to the U.S.-Nigeria relations on the issue of human rights, as stated? Or I mean, it was reported in the paper that America threatens to withdraw support in terms of arms procurement to Nigeria. From what Mr. Blinken said, is Nigeria threatened in that regard?
I think I am not aware of that threat because thus far, the application of the arms and the Tucano aircraft and a few of the other arsenals has not thus far infringed on human rights. All arms procured from the United States. It has not thus far, to my knowledge, infringed on human rights. I am aware, because I was involved in the course of the discussions and issues from leading to the payment, the loan of the $1 billion US for the procurement of the Tucano aircraft, to the time that approval was sought from the National Assembly, the action of, I think, Dan Mansa Dan Ali, at that time Minister of Defense, the Adele Shun, Minister of Finance, I'm sure, then the Office of the Chief of Staff, and other persons who were involved, led by the presidency. The idea was that all conditions for a democratic society before the Trump administration agreed to the sale of the arms to Nigeria were fulfilled and perfected. And that is why, at that time, one of the defenses and one of the conditions was that the money had to be paid, had to be dealt with treasury to treasury, state to state. And that is why we're saying that all conditions by the United States government were perfected. Not just the government at that time, all their regulations relating to democratic credentials. Now, I am aware that there has been concern by the United States government, given the report about the NSAS issues. And the government of Nigeria has been very, very careful, cautious, and guided and guarded in all its responses. You remember when the issue happened, the federal government raised, there was a lot of attention, and it was agreed that most of these issues happened in the states, and the attacks were all in the states. The protests were in the states, and under the laws of the country, in a federal state like Nigeria, each of these things is happening in the state, and there are the laws of those states. And the states were not just mandated, they had a duty under the laws of those states to set up those commissions, and it was supported. And they were set up, they have finished their response, some of them have submitted, some have not submitted. When a report of a committee of inquiry is set up and completed, it is submitted to the governor. And after that, a committee is set up to prepare the white paper. It is the white paper that will make the findings, and it's the findings that will show the opinion of government, and so on and so on. But for now, Nigeria and the federal government is being circumspect until they find what the white papers have said. But the opinion of the panel is respected. The opinion of the panel is respected. I have read some of the opinion of the panel on some of the report.
On the leaked one.
And what they say is the leaked report. And I'm not in a position at all, to comment either way. Because it is only when there is a white paper or recommendations, that is only then you can speak on it. Because
it's not the first time America, the UK government, the European Union will say, America specifically will say, look, if you rig election, you can come into the US or revoke your visa. And it does look like Mr. Blinken was speaking in similar terms on the issue of the NSAS report. He said, look, anticipatory though, we'll be waiting, but we're watching closely. And it also raises the issue of human rights, because these are some of the conversation that was raised in the issue of human rights and understanding. What comes out to you in that regard?
Well, the main component of the panels that was set up, I believe, is to investigate the breaches of fundamental rights apart from other issues. When you have citizens out in the street protesting against injustice or inequity, a democratic state has a moral and constitutional responsibility to protect those citizens and ensure that they exercise their rights to protest, to dissent, to object within the ambit of the constitutional guarantees that give them the right. Now, if you have a government that felt it is allergic to protest and dissent, and then it mobilizes the state machinery to suppress those things, already an atmosphere has been created for human rights violations. Now, these panels that were set up, the basic complaints that have been forwarded before this panel was about rights violations. And if that is clearly established, then the duty of those in the position of authority or power is to ensure that those who were found wanting or culprits should be brought to book. But we have a political class in this country that fears the laws and the actions of the West than what happens within their country. And that is why you will have politicians and political class from the ruling establishment, once they get a clear warning from the West, whether European Union or United States, that if you do this, we're going to clamp down on you. Now, the fear of their own properties, their own savings, their own relationship and assets outside the country that is being stocked, and their own investment now makes them to now withdraw from whatever they want to do. And now the Western world have discovered that, and to the advantage of Nigeria's ordinary people, that if you are involved in this, this is what we are going to do to you. And then you see, for example, what happened in Anambra elections. There were threats coming in from all sides. Some are opposed to the elections, some are threatening, and it happens also in 2019. But when they say we are going to impose visa ban goes to the man, the wife, his children, and his extended family relations, perhaps. And now he knows that there is consequences that goes to him directly. So if you look at the mentality of the thinking or psychology of Nigerian political class, they fear that more than the laws of the land, because they believe that as long as you belong to the cycle of power, you can do anything and get away with it. We have had cases of people engaging in all sorts of violence during elections. As long as they are on the side of power, they get scot-free.
But yes. Senator, I mean, without preempting what is in that, I mean, usually leaked reports are almost the same, almost the same thing, or very similar to original report. If the leaked report were to be the real report that comes out after this white paper is released, what's your biggest fear?
Well, there is no fear. If the report came out and people who are involved in human rights violations have been clearly identified, they should be arrested and prosecuted. That is it.
No matter who they are.
Whoever they are, whatever the commands, order, and structure that was given, they must be brought to book. Simple and easy.
Senator, you agree with that?
His Excellency, Mr. President, when he had to address this question, said, look, this matter is awaiting the white paper and the recommendations of the panels from each of the states, and particularly Lagos. And it will be improper for me to agree one way or the other as to what will be done. I would want to say that it will be, let us await the report. And of course, at the beginning of this program, you gave a countdown as to the number of days remaining.
It's 9 days.
9 days remaining. And so I would pray that we all await the 9 days remaining for the report to be, for the white paper to come out. Because the question you're asking and you want an opinion, the opinion, one way or the other, may be contained in that white paper. And it is that which will guide the actions of the Lagos state government, the actions of the federal government, and the actions of the agencies of state and the law enforcement. Therefore,
recently, there was an issue, a siege, they call it, in the house of a Supreme Court judge, Justice Mary Odili, bringing to the fold some of the problems within the judiciary and within the Nigerian space. My guest tonight, Senator Shehu and Senator Itayanang, will be speaking on some other issues that we will get into this matter. How concerned are you, Senator Itayanang, about the state of the Nigerian judiciary?
I'm very highly concerned, and at this stage, at my stage, at the bar, we are now like trustees of the judiciary. Let me commend His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, because it is his administration that has shown the highest level of commitment to the rule of law, separation of powers, and the functioning of the independent arm of government. And of course, you've heard whenever he's asked to interfere or intervene in any matter which is with another arm of government, he says, look, let them go through the process. Now, he had assented to the amendment which gave the autonomy of the state judiciary. And of course, 1.5 years after, the governors refused to implement the autonomy. And he issued the Executive Order 10, directing that monies in the standing to the credit of the judiciary in each state should be deducted directly and credited to the account of each of the states, state high courts, and the state judiciary in the respective from the federation account. That the governors opposed, and it became an issue. And Mr. President set up an implementation committee chaired by the Attorney General, and I'm the Secretary by God's grace, by the grace of Mr. President, and by God's grace and Mr. President. We've worked for 2.5 and a lot more years now, or 3, we've not been able to get that money deducted, just because of
so the money still goes through the states.
The money still goes through the governors of the states. And the governors, in show of goodwill, good faith, what we believe was show of good faith, when the Parliamentary Staff Union and the Judicial Staff Union went on strike eventually, they agreed that they will release the money. And they all agreed that we will also have the state judiciary funds management law and the parliamentary funds management laws in each of the states. Most of the states have passed. Plateau has passed. Ekiti has passed. The Bayelsa has passed. Bayelsa set the best example in the days of the immediate past governor, and they had started before the time of before Dixon left office, now Senator Dixon. They had started implementing that state. But other states have not implemented. Only Plateau State now, we can say, has implemented to a limited extent. Now, I commend the Governors Forum, led by Fayemi, His Excellency Governor Fayemi, because they have made the law, they have signed the law. But I don't commend them because after signing the law, they have not released the money to the judiciary. Fortunately, you were there at the last bar conference. On the 26th, I was asked by the NBA to make a presentation to the state of the implementation of the autonomy. And I stated clearly that, yes, the laws have been made by most of the states, but we were not just interested in the making of the laws that allows the autonomy, but it was for the money to be released to the judiciary of each of the respective states.
That's the practical thing to do.
And of course,
the law
by God's grace, in the panel I made the presentation. I think it was chaired by a justice of the Court of Appeal, a justice of the Court of Appeal, with the Fapa Hunda, the Attorney General of Ekiti State, and I think the Chief Judge of Ogun State. I understand Ogun State has done well too at the instance of the Chief Judge. Now, I confronted the Attorney General, Faponda is my friend. We work together on a lot of human rights issues. That look, you are here. Your governor is the chairman of the Governors Forum. Your state has passed the law. This is the microphone. This is you. Have you released the money to the judge? And he couldn't. Now, the whole matter is, most of them say they have released, but we've confirmed they haven't. But I want to take one case, the case of...
just a moment. Let me allow Senator Sonny to also weigh in on this matter. Are you worried? The same way I asked Senator Itayananga, is there any progress in terms of the autonomy or in the freedom of the expression of judicial powers in Nigeria?
Well, you see, the judiciary is not an agency of the executive. Yeah. It is also not a department or unit of the executive. Judges are not political appointees of the president or the governor of any state. And the position and the law that guides the judiciary is clearly stated in our constitution. And if the president and the governors of this country are Democrats, there should be no controversy over this issue. If you have a judiciary that is financially dependent on the executive, it is impossible to have fairness, to have equity, to have justice and to have objectivity in the conduct of judicial process. And from what I have heard, my brother, Senator Eyang, was saying, it's very clear that the governors are simply deceiving Nigerians.
Yes.
On paper, you have agreed to grant autonomy, and then in reality, the autonomy was not granted. It has been clearly stated that the governor of Plateau State has made progress. He should be a guide to other governors to do what is happening in Plateau State. And to me, the executive always want to control the judiciary. And that has been the reason why it's so difficult for them to agree to credit their account directly and to make them financially independent. Yeah. And if you look at it, all these things here, the House of Justice orderly was raided, and then the whole thing turned into a Nollywood movie that the people who did it are fake this, fake that. And how can a country of over 211 million people with leaders that are elected into office, and then the house of a Supreme Court judge will be invaded and violated, and it end up with a fake story? So to me, I think we should be very careful with this. Yeah. If we destroy the judiciary, we are destroying democracy in Nigeria.
I'm into that. We are totally out of time.
Yeah. Please, I just want to draw attention to one matter. One, the judiciary is completely free at the federal level. Please, let me just use this opportunity to draw attention that we've been clapping for Rivers State government for doing well for the judiciary. We thank His Excellency Governor Wike for what he has done for the Federal High Court, for what he's done for the Nigerian Law School, for anything that is done for any other federal arm of government. But
I agree that
the Rivers State has done very badly in terms of treatment of the judiciary of Rivers State, because it is not that you have to build the court, for the judiciary. It is not that you have to do anything for the judiciary. It is that the governor of Rivers State and the governor of every state should release the money of the judiciary to the judiciary to be used by the judiciary on the judiciary and to be accounted for by the judiciary. The judiciary is not I said at that conference and at my presentation, the judiciary is not a kindergarten. It's not a nursery. It's not a this thing. So they have to be given that autonomy. So nobody should clap for His Excellency Governor Wike. We should tell him. And he keeps saying, my money, if you touch my money. The money does not belong to the governor of a state. It doesn't belong to. It belongs, the money of the executive goes to the governor. The money of the judiciary goes to the chief judge and the head of the court. That of the legislature goes to the goes to the House of Assembly. So it is not the money, it is not my money by the governor. Governor should stop saying my money. It is not my money.
Sani, just 20 seconds.
Governor Wike has done a very good job in terms of his approach to the judiciary in the state, and other governors have not even done 10% of what he has done.
I don't agree with you. He has done well in terms of what he's been, but he's done it wrongly. The money should be released to the judiciary. Should release the money to the judiciary, not to, don't spend it yourself. The judiciary can also spend it.
Senator, we're totally out of time. Senator Shehu Sani and Senator Etana, and both of you, thank you so much for coming tonight. I appreciate it. Well, that's our program for today. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimale. Bye for now.